And look at this. We're on Facebook Live, and we're recording for Car Sin Carne. It is Car Sin Carne, the world's only food podcast recorded in a car. I'm James Van Osdol. That right there is Natalie Slater from Bake and Destroy.
Hello.
And this week's podcast, which we're also showing part of on Facebook Live, is lovingly brought to you by Boost Mobile. I'm doing this Facebook Live on my Samsung Galaxy S8 phone, which I got from Boost Mobile and is running on the Boost Mobile network, boostmobile.com. They're all over the place. Go visit Boost Mobile. I swear to you, my situation, my plan, I've got my whole family on this, and we spend not a lot. It's a great thing. Boost Mobile. Okay.
It's Car Sin Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Car Sin Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Osdol.
Natalie.
Yes, hello.
We are doing the vegan thing tonight because you are.
Yeah, find the vegan. That's me.
So Car Sin Carne is really Car Sin Carne.
Right.
Car without meat.
Yes.
We tonight went to one of your, I'm going to call it a haunt, one of your favorite places.
Yeah, I've localized this place for sure.
So it is the name of the place?
It's Kalish. A lot of people say Kalish, so I'm going to go with Kalish.
This is why I asked you to say it, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I believe Kalish, long A.
So we're in Uptown. Now, I remember, I was telling you right before we started recording, I used to live not far from here, like Lawrence and Ashland-ish. This sort of stuff didn't exist when I lived here 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
The transformation, this neighborhood,
Yeah.
has this like Sheridan Park, Uptown area, Wilson and Clark.
Yeah, for sure. Even like 10 years ago, this was a whole different world over here.
I wouldn't be walking across the street with you.
For sure.
I'd be picking you up in front of the place. Yeah.
You know what's funny is there's a guy, I won't name names, but there's a guy who used to own a business over here who, when Kalish first opened, he posted on Instagram like a "there goes the neighborhood" kind of like
gentrification.
Yeah, I mean, even though he's a white dude that had opened a total white dude business like down the street, but he posted that, and my friend and I were both like, you know, like whatever, we were kind of roasting him in the comments. And then I was here one day and he was eating here. So I side-eyed him and then gave him like the nod of acknowledgement.
Now, because we're on Facebook Live, what does your side eye look like?
It's like this.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you don't want this.
I don't want that. Now, we should mention for those watching on Facebook Live, this is my second full day wearing glasses.
Yes.
And it's weird. I've never done this before. I'm an adult now. My eyesight just fell off a cliff. You realized I was wearing glasses. When I came to meet you, you were not. But you
I put mine on to make you feel more comfortable.
Right, because it's very weird for me to have these on. So thank you. We're twinning
Yeah,
tonight.
look at us. Don't we look smart?
As we proceed here on camera, Natalie.
Yes.
I want to bust open the vegan food.
Yeah, let's eat. I'm starving.
From Kalish.
Yes.
You got what? Now, because this is your place, you know this menu up one side and down the next.
Yeah, I've eaten my way through this menu. So I got the Clucker Crisps. This is yours. So you got...
Okay, I got it's the barbecued pulled pork jackfruit. So it's jackfruit done like pulled pork. And you say it's...
Yeah, so jackfruit it's like the ingredient in the vegan world right now. It's a giant 80-pound tree fruit. I have forks if you need them.
Yep.
It grows in Thailand, and people call it sometimes people call it tree mutton there because it has such a meaty texture.
And this is used in Indian dishes and Thai, Vietnamese.
Yeah, it makes awesome barbecue, like as you can see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so this is cabbage I'm looking at? It's got to be.
Yeah, so I think
like
they do
slaw?
like a slaw, like some pickled cabbage. Here you
Bless
are.
you. Bless you.
And then I got the Clucker Crisps because before I became a vegetarian and then eventually a vegan, I ate fried chicken like all the time.
Like nobody's business.
Yeah, like some people are pizza fanatics.
Sure.
Some people, like for me, it was fried chicken. I could eat it every day of the week.
Right.
And so they do these awesome, I'll show you how.
So these are seitan.
Fried chickeny they look.
They do?
Yeah, and so they make it out of seitan, which is like a wheat gluten.
Right.
But theirs is a little different because they also use chickpea, so it has like a
Nice.
really juicy. It's not quite as tough as seitan can be sometimes. And
It smells great.
they have the best fries too. Like this is just a total.
Can I steal a fry?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I don't want to.
So this is my place for faux fried chicken.
I think I got celery.
Did you? Oh, that's a bummer.
Well, they have great celery too. Oh my God, Kalish has the most amazing celery.
Come for the cluckers and stay for the celery.
Yeah. No, I will say, Natalie, a chicken impresario, one of the city of Chicago's finest purveyors of fried chicken, is watching right now. Jared Leonard,
Hi, Jared.
the man behind the Bud Long. He says, fried chicken and barbecue, music to my ears. Heavy metal, music to her ears.
It's true. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to try this on camera before we start drifting off into podcast land. I guess, here I go.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what yours tastes like.
I'm just eating mine with my hands too because I got nobody to impress.
I think I got napkins, which we might need to bust out.
Yeah, I listened to enough episodes of your show to know that there's always a napkin shortage.
Always. And thank you for listening.
Of course. I didn't need to know what I was getting into. They gave me some ranch for mine. I'm interested to hear what you think of this.
Well, first thing I tasted was the barbecue sauce. Then I got the slaw. And then I got the jackfruit. The tricky thing about vegetarian and vegan food is people who are used to eating meat and they see that it's supposed to be like the version of pork or a burger.
Yeah.
Or
and it's
chicken,
a little bit off.
and they're expecting that flavor. It's done in the style of those foods, but it shouldn't taste like that food.
Right.
So texturally, it reminds me of pulled pork.
Yeah. You know what I like about jackfruit is that it's a whole food. Like it's a real it's a fruit. They took it out, they shredded it up, and they made it. So it's not like I love seitan, but it's processed, and like
Right.
all the soy and everything. Like it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but like I like that it's simple and it's just a fruit.
I'll tell you what my
barbecue
challenge
sauce.
is. I'm having a hard time discerning where the barbecue sauce stops and the jackfruit begins because it's Swedish. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what I'm tasting.
So jackfruit's very much like tofu in that way. You could cook it like I do another version. Like barbecue's kind of the common way that people make it, but I do a version with like liquid smoke. And then throw it in with like a sweet potato hash and do more of like a breakfasty kind of bacony.
I love a sweet potato hash.
Right?
Oh my God. This
I'm
is
with
really
you.
good. This is really, really yummy. And pretty much guilt-free. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
I've got it on a whole grain bread.
yeah.
And it's
Not too bad.
I love the crunch of the pickles. This is good stuff. And
I'm getting into pickles finally. Like I'm almost 40. It's time for me to like start accepting pickles.
is that what happens? That's a rite of passage?
I read
you cross that threshold?
I read that somewhere.
What side is that? Is that like a broccoli?
This is a sesame oil broccoli, and sesame oil is probably the most magical ingredient on the planet.
Why?
It makes everything taste so good. You could put it on anything.
Just deeper flavors?
I'm going to let you try this.
Okay. I do like broccoli with sesame oil. So
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about sesame oil. It's just like, when I come home, if my
I feel
husband's
like
been cooking in
I
it,
just ate half your side.
you're fine.
Okay.
I have so many French fries. Like
You do, actually.
If I have French fries and broccoli, like the French fries are getting eaten. It's good, right? Yeah, Kalish. This place is the jam. And they gave us free desserts.
Oh. Before we walked out, they said, "Oh, you're doing the podcast, right? How'd you like some dessert?" Never say no to dessert.
No.
That's just
Yeah.
fundamental rule. Yeah. Can I? Where are the desserts?
There, I have them right here.
Are they stashed?
They're. I was hoping you'd forget. No.
Never. Okay, so you got,
I got a muffin, like a
which looks amazing.
weirdo, but I was actually thinking of breakfast tomorrow, so
So
cranberry
this is,
orange.
and the cranberry, if you can see on camera, it's just covered in sugar.
Yeah.
That looks delicious. And I love lemon type pastries. I got a lemon cookie, frosted lemon cookie.
really
which
good.
I'm going to make fast work of when this meal is all over.
Yes.
Right,
They have great pastries. And they have cakes from Pie Pie, my darling. So
this
shout out to Heather.
Unrelated to the food. This is the first restaurant I've been to in Chicago. No joke, that is cashless. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So actually another vegan restaurant, Upton's Break Room, they just went cashless too. So innovating on food, innovating on the checkout experience.
This is where all things are going.
Yeah. I mean, like, it makes sense. It's so much safer.
And usually I'm going to some dive where they don't actually take credit cards.
Right.
Usually the dives I go to, now we're cash only. Or they'll have an ATM in the place, which charges like $5 to take the money out.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is good.
Yeah.
I like this.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad. Well, I think it's cool that you're open to trying. Obviously, with this show, you couldn't, like, if you were scared of food,
I love
this would be a
food.
bad show for you to have.
I hope you don't frown on my meatness.
No.
Okay.
I would have no friends if I
Fair
cared
enough.
what other people ate.
That's true.
I'll tell you that I never started eating meat again once I quit, but I did have, because I went vegetarian when I graduated high school, so 1998, and then I went vegan pretty shortly after that because I moved to Chicago and I went to college and I met all these like hardcore kids and they were all vegans, and so it was like a pretty quick transition. And then I was vegan for a really long time, and then travel was tough, which
It's really hard.
I don't want to blame anybody but me for like not being able to prepare, but now if you travel, you can throw a tweet out and just be like, yo, Toledo, what's good? Like, where do I eat? And somebody will tell you, or you can look at Happy Cow or whatever, but you couldn't do that like 15 years ago. You'd have to know someone
There are
that
just
lived
more
there,
options
or
now.
like, yeah, so now traveling as a vegan, I do a lot for work and I can do my research up front, and there's certain cities like I'm stoked to go to. Like, I love going to Atlanta and just eating all over Atlanta, and like obviously like New York and LA and San Francisco, like, but sometimes I end up like I had to go to Dallas, and I knew it was going to be like there was going to be like the 2 or 3 places, and I was going to kind of have to figure it out if I couldn't get to one of those places. Whole Foods is good, like if you end up somewhere with a Whole Foods.
That makes sense.
But that's all now. That's all totally different. Travel is what did me in previously, and so I did have a lapse, so that's another reason why I don't ever judge anyone, or you know. Plus I just think that it doesn't do anything for veganism to have vegans be dicks.
I agree.
Like, it's not helping. So I'd rather that you tried that, like tonight you ate a vegan dinner. To me, like that, I'm going to celebrate that. Like, that's a victory for me, that you could have ate something else, but you didn't. You ate this and you liked it, and maybe you'll come back here.
I have no problem with it. I mean, I love food. If it tastes good, I'm in.
Right. I think it's funny that people right now are eating Tide Pods.
Oh.
And I still get shit for being a vegan. Like, I'm weird because I eat vegetables, but like your kid is eating a Tide Pod.
Right. Your kid's eating detergent. It's funny. I do remember, and I'm sure you get this all the time, when I was vegetarian, it was so hard for people to wrap their heads around it. Even my family, they'd be like, all right, so you're vegetarian, but you still eat fish, right? Mm-hmm. Well, no, because I'm a vegetarian.
Right.
And I'm sure it's very difficult for people to just wrap their heads around it.
Yeah. It's made me realize a lot, like, just how little people really think about food or, like, understand it. Like, especially because I work in the food industry. I work for a food brand. So, like, I'm always surprised that people don't understand how food gets on the shelf at the grocery store.
Right.
And then, further being vegan, when people are like, like the protein question, it's the classic question. And it's like, I'll tell them a few different things I eat, and they didn't know, like, that broccoli had protein in it. And it's like, that's, I get it. Like, I went to the same schools that you went to. Like, we didn't learn that broccoli had protein in it in school, but it's kind of mind-boggling, like, how little people really know about food. And you really, when you have a diet like this, or if you're gluten-free or whatever, like, and people ask you about it, it makes you really realize, like, wow, people really don't.
No, it's all reflex.
Don't think about it. Yeah,
all reflex, no thought. Let's talk a little bit about Bake and Destroy.
Okay.
You are an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I guess so.
Did you always have that spark, or was this just something you realized when you started blogging?
It's funny because now looking back, I realize I've always had little, like, hustles.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a marketer. I just didn't know at the time that was marketing, what I was doing. Like,
Were you creating a gig for yourself when you started blogging, or was it just...
No. So when I first moved to Chicago, my first job here was in a bakery. Mm-hmm. I worked at Letitia's Natural Bakery in Wicker Park.
Mm-hmm. I'm covered in, like, cabbage and stuff. I hope you don't judge me.
It's a good look.
Mm-hmm.
It's very vegan. Yeah, and so that was, like, my kind of professional introduction into baking. But I'd always baked at home with my mom, and, you know, being vegan in the, like, early 2000s, you kind of had to cook for yourself. There weren't a lot of options. So I always liked cooking and baking, and I'd worked in a bakery and worked in lots of restaurants. And so when my son was a newborn, and I was nannying, so I just was watching, like, a ton of Martha Stewart and a ton of Food
And I know
Network.
you've told this story a million times.
It's okay. I don't mind. I'll give you, like, the quick version.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just started blogging because I was cooking a lot then, just out of, like, you know, nap time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just, like, finding something creative to do when you're, like, so exhausted.
Right.
And so I just started sort of like a diary where I could let people know what I was, like, how my baby was and what was going on at home. Oh, also I made these brownies and they were pretty rad. Like, here's the recipe. And that's how it started. And I thought, like, maybe my mom and my sister were reading it.
Of course.
But then I started getting comments from people, because another thing about the time, like, you just have to think about the time period, because now there are, like, a million food blogs with a million different, like, punk rockers and, like, everybody's got, like, it's like wrestling. Everybody's, like, you know, like, got their little like, gimmick. But back then, food bloggers were all very Martha Stewart-y. Like, everything was perfect and beautiful and pastel. And so here I was, like, this, like, tattooed young mom, and my recipes had swear words in them, and, like,
those are the only kind of recipes I want to read.
Right. Because you can relate, like, you know, just like, okay, so, you know, put all the wet ingredients in the bowl and just beat the fucking shit out of them with a fork.
I get that.
But, like, yeah, I just, people were, like, started commenting and emailing me and stuff, and just, like, in the same situation as me. Like, I'm a mom with a bunch of tattoos, and everybody at the playground thinks that I'm weird, and then I found your blog, and, like, we would be friends if we lived in the same city, and just, that's just how it started. And then from there, like, I started baking again professionally. I would do, like, the vegan option for a bunch of cafes. And
now, when did you start destroying professionally?
I've always...
Got it.
Yeah, since the day I was born, I started destroying.
Well said.
But yeah, I never intended it to be anything more than, like, a diary.
And see, I think that's part of the secret. You were writing for yourself.
Right.
And I think people who go into a blog, a podcast, a vlog, just trying to capture an audience, you're going at it from the wrong direction.
It's just not genuine.
That's it. It's inauthentic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think another secret to success, the reason why this podcast still exists, is just I never gave up. I just kept doing it.
Right.
And I figured eventually, we'll see what happens. But
yeah, totally. It's funny because it ebbs and flows too. So for like, I always talk about, like, the period of time when I was, like, hot shit. For a little bit, everything was happening for me.
So this is like Cupcake Wars.
Yeah, I was on Cupcake Wars. I was on the Cooking Channel. Like, you know, I was, like, writing for Time Out Chicago, and like all this stuff was happening, and it was like, you know, I filmed, like, 2 or 3 different. I filmed, like, 6 months of a reality show. around a bakery in Chicago that I didn't really work at, but for the sake of the show I worked at. And like,
that's reality TV right there.
Oh yeah,
That
reality TV is so, like, the reason I ended up getting fired from it was because the script was really bad and I refused to say things they were trying to make me say. And they told me, like, good luck in this business, basically, and, like, showed me the door.
See, there's the punk rock in you. That's
Right.
it right there.
Well, that was, yeah, they wanted me to say, it was two specific things I had a problem with. One was for, like, that opening sequence in every reality show where, like, the different people on the show are saying a line, and it's,
Right.
like, always so cringy. They wanted
So
me to
cringy.
say, we're just a bunch of girls kicking ass and taking names, or something like that, or, like, kicking ass and making cakes or something.
Oh, my
and
God.
I was like, but we're literally in a bakery. Is there nothing else that we could say about it? I wouldn't say that, and then I wouldn't compare, like, the main person in the show. They wanted me to say that she was, like, a modern-day Martha Stewart, but she wasn't. No offense to her, but she was a baker. Martha Stewart is, like, a force of nature.
Mm-hmm.
She, like, has an empire and she can build things and she has a magazine, and like I watched an episode where she literally built the front porch of her house.
I can't do Legos with my kids.
Right. So sorry, I was like, I can't do that. What if I meet Martha Stewart someday?
Right.
I can't like say that. So, but yeah, all this stuff was happening for me, and it just, but like because of that reason, like I filmed a sizzle reel for like this company that wanted to produce a show where I went around to bakeries and just tried went in the kitchen, kind of like every show on TV now, like where you go to the restaurant and you make the food, whatever.
Right.
And they just wanted me to like do a lot of like shouting and pointing at the camera and just like taking the bus to Flavortown and all that kind of stuff. And I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I had people, I mean, because at one point I thought maybe I'd open a bakery, and a good friend of mine offered me the money to do it because he was really successful in professional wrestling, and like,
Does his name rhyme with PM Sunk?
yeah. And he offered to give me the money. He offered me a hilarious amount of money because he didn't know about how much things cost. When you've spent your life as a pro wrestler
On the road 350
you
days
don't
a year.
have a good grasp of like how much like paper towels cost and just stuff like that. So he was like,
he was on the road every day.
every day.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me if $1 million was enough. And I was like, I'm going to put in gold toilets. Like,
Right.
that's...
That'll get the chain off the ground.
Right, like, that's amazing. But I was so afraid of, like, failing and, like, losing his money and just failing. Luckily, I had other things in the works. Like, I was in school and I was just doing other things. So I found something else that I loved, which was working in marketing and working in the food industry and like finding another way to channel my love of food to something else that I could do and not be so exposed. But yeah, I do feel like, you know, I have a friend now who wants to open a bakery, and I'm like on call for her because I know I know what that feels like, but I know that she can do it. So I'm trying to like, I don't have $1 million, but I have like a million words of encouragement.
Yeah. That goes a long way.
Yeah.
All right. So mentioning CM Punk, kind of a wrestling tangent here. We're recording this on a Monday night. More specifically, the night of the big Raw anniversary.
Right.
I want to acknowledge and appreciate the sacrifice you've made for this podcast.
No, I mean, if I'm being honest, I haven't actually watched Raw in a while because I don't want to say anything that's going to like land me in court, but I lost my taste for it. We'll just put it that way. Like, I've had enough friends work in the industry that I see it differently now than when
I get it.
Yeah, I was like a big fan, and so like no shade on anybody that's still in the industry or still loves it or whatever, that's fine, but like for me it's like I've seen how the sausage is made, so I
Right.
kind of don't love
And this
it.
is coming from a vegan. But yeah, you know, each Raw episode's like 10 hours. 10
Oh
hours a
my
week
god,
now.
it's like, what is it, 3 hours or more than that?
I think it's 3 hours, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll still be on when we're done here. Yeah, it's a little...
Sure, you could still catch some of it.
Do you watch the indie stuff? Do you watch like Ring of Honor? Do you...
Yeah, so I've been trying to support women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So like locally we have like Shimmer does
Yeah.
filming, does like they shoot stuff here, and yeah, because that's part of the reason why I kind of fell away from it was just like learning more about like how the women are compensated compared to men, and like
I'd love to say I'm surprised.
I mean, yeah. So like, and just getting to know some of those women just from like, you know, from Phil introducing me to people and like seeing how hard they're working just as hard. They're in the gym just as much. Of
course.
They're putting their bodies through the same thing. Somebody like Beth Phoenix, who was like in the Royal Rumble, she was the second woman ever to throw a man over the top rope in a Royal Rumble. And knowing that she got paid like $4,000 for that night, and that like the same like guys that were in the same Royal Rumble as her were getting like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000.
Yeah,
like,
it makes your stomach hurt.
Yeah, it's like, why though? Like, you know, so it's just hard to support knowing that kind of stuff. But there's so many like indies that are doing things differently, and there's like women's leagues, and I feel like with Glow being such a popular show that I hope there's like a feminist wrestling fan base that like continues. I know it's out there. Like I talk
agree
to those women, but like I don't know. I think things can change. Maybe not in the WWE, but
I know you have been a fan. Your merch is extraordinary. You have the Hot Rod.
Oh, my heart belongs to Hot Rod forever.
I grew up. I mean, he was the best. Roddy Piper was just the best.
The best on the mic. Just
like bar none.
Yeah.
And I read his first biography, not the one his kids just did, but fascinating dude. And you know, common theme, rough childhood.
Right.
I mean, just tough, ramshackle life that led him down that path. But fascinating guy.
Yeah.
And truly, there was no one better.
I don't know. I just remember like watching him as a kid and knowing that he was a bad guy and I wasn't supposed to like him, but just like not wanting his part to be over and just wanting to keep listening to him. And
I always liked the heels. Always.
Yeah.
I never cheered the good guys. I always liked the
same.
The dicks. I liked, you know, when I was a kid, I would watch the Freebirds, do their thing in Texas. I loved watching Michael Hayes talk. Loved Bobby Heenan. Loved Roddy Piper. Loved all those guys.
Yeah. I also love Ric Flair.
Love Ric Flair.
Yeah, he's a great heel.
Did you watch the 30 for 30?
I haven't watched it yet. I've been waiting for my friend Melissa owns a business here in Chicago in Logan Square, and it's called Flair. And it's in honor of Ric Flair, but also she sells flair, like buttons and patches and pins and all that stuff.
Get out. Okay.
Yeah, so she and I will just woo each other like all day. And so I've been waiting until like we can get our schedules together so that we need to watch it together. It's like a bonding thing for us.
Again, common theme. Hard life. I mean, glamorous in some respects, but these guys and women, they're on the road, I mean, completely detached from family, friends, and just a sense of how the world works.
People don't, I mean, it's, of course, how would you? It's just like, people don't know how food gets into the grocery store. Like, how would they? People don't know what that life's like, and so all you see is this glamour, but just having it be somebody that I've been friends with for 20 years, like living that life. Even now, he's been out for, 4 or so years, and he still, like, has people waiting outside his, like, back door. Like,
that's awful.
When he takes his garbage out and...
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the cookbook. The cookbook is a few years old. A couple years later, are there recipes you put in the book that with a couple years more of learning and playing around in the kitchen that you wish you could change?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm excited because the first edition sold out, and it's out of print, and I'm negotiating the rights back from my publisher.
Great.
Because I want to make some edits and I want to make some additions, and I'm trying to figure out sort of what the best platform is. Like I feel like people don't buy like physical books as much anymore, which is sad.
I generally agree with that, except for cookbooks.
But I find people just, you can get so much for free on the internet.
True.
It's really hard to get people to like give you $14 for something that you worked for a whole year.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, like, do I break it up and do like little digital download editions, or do I just like give it all away for free on my website? Or I don't know, that part of it. I'm sure like my literary agent has opinions on whether or not it should be free. But yeah, for sure, there's definitely like, I'm still not like a health vegan, but I'm a healthier vegan than I used to be. And so there's some stuff where I maybe used more sugar or more salt than I would now, or more oil. Yeah. And like, actually to this day, there's only one recipe that had a typo in it. So I'm really proud of that.
Did that just drive you insane?
It drives me totally insane. Like, shout out to Columbia's journalism program that I can't sleep at night because there's one typo in my book. But
it's funny you should say that. I feel like every time I read a book, doesn't matter who the publisher is, I catch a couple of typos or errant commas or things that just don't belong there.
Yeah, it's a crazy, like, there's usually one editor working on it, and it's like your eyes glaze over, like, how that is. But I had a class when I was at Columbia where we met twice a week, and every class you had to bring 3 edits to a publication. Like, you'd have to bring in a newspaper and have found like 3 errors, either like grammatical or a punctuation error, or just like a stylistical error, like, like, oh, this was a redundant statement or whatever. And when we first got the assignment, we were all just like, that's impossible. But then we found ourselves getting extra credit all the time, because it's just like,
I did that assignment in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like hard to, but yeah, that's definitely something I was proud of. There was one typo in the whole book.
That is amazing.
But yeah, there's some stuff I would definitely, and there's like a few, like, I dedicated a recipe in my cookbook to USA Up All Night host Rhonda Shear, because she like shaped my childhood.
That's amazing.
Just like watching Attack of the Killer Tomatoes
and
like Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I remember, I'm a couple years older than you, Natalie, but I remember going to the 3 Penny Cinema, which is now where Lincoln Hall is, and seeing that as like a cult matinee.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
The Music Box should play that. That's a great one.
It is a great one. I watched it on cable or somewhere like last year.
It's so weird.
It's so weird.
The costumes are so weird. The clowns are so creepy. Yeah.
And that was my introduction to the Dickies. They do the theme song.
Yeah.
That was my first exposure to the Dickies.
That's awesome.
All right. So you dedicated?
Yeah. So I dedicated a recipe to her. All my recipes all sort of ramble and weave weird stuff together the way that my whole life sort of does. And like, so the way this recipe came about was, when I was a kid, my mom used to make this cake called Better Than Sex Cake. And it's a chocolate cake, and you poke holes in it, and you pour caramel in the holes.
Yes, you do.
And then you top it with crushed up Heath bars, and then cool
I love it. Toffee's fantastic.
Yeah. Toffee, caramel, any of that.
Yep.
Any burnt sugar substance is delicious.
Amen.
Yes. So, but then my mom wouldn't call it Better Than Sex Cake, because we were like, my mom like taught Catholic school and whatever, so she called it Better Than a Handshake Cake. So
who doesn't love a good handshake?
Right. So the way that it relates to Rhonda Shear is that anybody who watched Rhonda Shear knows that her outfits were very provocative, and she was kind of like this sexy lady on late night TV. And so I would like sit right next to the TV to watch it with like my finger on the off button, just in case my mom walked in, so I could like turn it off or change the channel or whatever. So to me, she was as forbidden as like calling that cake what it really was.
That's
called.
Amazing.
So I called it like the Rhonda Shear something or other. I don't remember the title. Anyway, the reason I would change it now is, unfortunately, because of social media, you learn too much about the people that you admire. And sometimes the people you admire are crazy or terrible. And so I started following her on Twitter because I was like, oh my God, Rhonda Shear, I love her. And I don't want to get super political, but let's just say that we are not
a match.
Not a match politically. And I was bummed. I was so bummed. Like, I dedicated a recipe to you. And so I feel like I would probably find another muse maybe for that recipe.
Hey, how about James Woods? I think he'd be right up your alley.
James Woods. I mean, yeah, it's that little things like that. But yeah, writing a cookbook is it's like so hard. You have to.
Well, yeah, it would have to be, because I mean, you kind of have to. You have to put down the step by step, and then you have to recreate it, don't you? You have to test.
Yeah, you have to. So technically, you should test you should test a recipe yourself at least 3 times, if not 5 times. Like, just that's kind of like the scientific method of it, because you make it once. And there's always going to be something that you want to change about it. Like, it's rare.
It's just you doing this.
Just me, yeah. But then what I did was, once something kind of got past like my first 3 or so tests, I had a couple people, some of my friends and some of my relatives, that were willing to test things for me too. And so I would pass something along once it got past me to like my mom or my cousin and I spaced them out across the country too, because I also wanted to make sure that all the ingredients that I was calling for were like easy to find and, not too expensive and stuff like that. So I had like my cousin that was in college making stuff in her dorm room. So I couldn't be like, use your double boiler to do this, because she's like, bitch, I have a toaster oven. But like, or like my mom, who makes delicious food but always forgets one ingredient. Like, I wanted like a lot of people doing different things.
Yeah, because it has to work across the board.
And then what was awesome was that my photographer, Celine Steen, because she photographed almost every recipe in the book, I had like a final wave of testing, like once all those tests were done. So she even caught things like, maybe I like didn't realize when you say like a handful of something that you need to like give a measurement for that, or
I can see that.
Or like if you say like 1 banana, it's like, okay, but how many cups? Because bananas are different, so like she caught a lot. So it's just like a lot of that stuff up front.
It's a shitload of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Like, that's why now, like, I have more cookbooks than anything else. And I treat them like, first edition signed copies of like whatever famous novels, because I know how much work went into them.
Oh yeah. One thing I did as you were talking, as mentioned, it's my first go around with glasses. One thing I learned, wearing headphones on top of glasses, incredibly painful as the night goes on.
Crushes your head.
Oh my God. I'm going to have dents by my ears tomorrow. Oh my God. So knowing how busy you are, Natalie, you've got so much going on. How much time do you have to fool around and try stuff in the kitchen? To play with new recipes? Or
I mean, my weekends are usually pretty open. Like, I've been wanting to, I think, I haven't written new recipes for my site in a long time, but I
notice you share a lot of other recipes.
Yeah, I share a lot of other.
You, yeah.
Yeah, like I'll like promote other cookbooks that my friends wrote and stuff like that. But I actually do cook a lot, and I'll post what I made. What I found though is, like we were saying, it's hard to get people to listen to a podcast, or it's hard to get somebody to read a blog post. It's hard to get somebody to like get off Instagram and go read a blog. Yep. And so a lot of my recipes end up in an Instagram story or in the caption of a photo, because I just know like most people aren't going to
go where the audience is. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's some stuff that like I have like a backlog of things that I need to vlog.
It's so funny you said that about the Instagram. I realized, same thing, trying to get people to listen to a podcast, to subscribe. It's tough. And one of the things I learned, now with my podcast, I automatically publish to YouTube. Even though it's just a flat image on YouTube with the audio file, suddenly I'm getting more listening on YouTube than I was to the podcast, because people are alrery looking at videos.
Yeah, totally.
It's crazy.
Oh my God, YouTube's the weirdest. Does your daughter just watch YouTube constantly? No. I think that you lucked out.
No, she's stuck. I gotta tell you, I would almost prefer her watching YouTube. She is stuck on Netflix watching this Canadian family drama called Heartland, about a bunch of like an equestrian family and its life on the farm. And she's now through like her second time binging it.
Oh, that's kind of great though.
It's adorable, but I'd almost rather she watch like wacky memes or something.
Yeah, like my son and all his friends and like my nieces and just all my friends' kids, all they do is watch YouTube, and it's like, it's the weirdest content. It'll be like somebody else playing with a toy, or like,
oh yeah,
unboxing videos.
The unboxing, yes.
It's so weird. It's just, I feel like such a mom, walking in and being like, I don't understand it. Why is this cool?
The unboxing. Let's see these awesome things that someone else gets.
That you don't have.
Right. Lucky them.
I know. It's so weird. It's really weird.
So, Bake and Destroy. cookbook.com is you.
Yes.
And we can keep up to date with you there, of course, on Instagram. In fact, you're already on Instagram as you're listening.
You're probably on Instagram right now. So
you are so much fun, and the cookbook. Hopefully, it'll be back in your hands, and you can manipulate it. And
yes, for now, I mean, you can get it used,
Yep.
on Amazon or wherever.
It's there.
So you can still get it.
I love what you do. I mean, you've really made this lifestyle, this food choice, accessible, fun.
Thank you.
And you've demystified a lot of it for the general public.
That's what I'm going for.
Awesome. So thank you for doing the podcast. Did you have fun?
I did have fun. Thank you.
You swear?
I swear.
Okay.
I would tell you.
Yeah, actually, I have no doubt of that. All right. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks.